Hello, hello, Dayton, if you're there. Hello, my friend. There you go. I'll try that. I just did ask to unmute. That might help it.
Hello?
Yes, I got you.
Okay, I need to turn my sound up. I never remember where that is. I don't use my iPad very often.
Okay.
There it is. Good to see you.
Yeah, great to be seen as well.
Yeah, life has been crazy here. I imagine you and your new situation has been interesting too. Oh, I guess I don't know if it's just us, but yes, I'll do the
Great.
whatever you call it, podcast. I've never done one before like that, but I can probably I prefer interview.
Yep.
You know,
Great. Do it that way.
If you would like to do an interview and just ask me questions, if I'm just talking, then I have to prepare something.
Yeah, I hear you.
If you interview me, then I just talk.
Okay.
So
Good. Hey, Greg. Hey, Lloyd. Good to see you guys. Welcome, welcome. We got Malcolm joining us soon. Dayton, just to follow up on that, I'll send you some dates that I still have open for that. All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, hey, while we're catching up, while we're waiting for everybody, let's just do a little bit of catching up. What's something you guys are celebrating from the last few weeks' time?
I don't know that I use the word celebrating. Jeanette's mom is now living with us for a while.
Oh, wow.
That has been a necessity, and it's nice having her here, but life is complicated now. So
yeah, absolutely.
And so there's been that. So that's a major change. My right foot is in a boot. Oh. Because I'm having issues with my plantar fasciitis again, and I basically couldn't walk.
Oh man!
But the boot has helped, and I've been able to walk and got back to work. I wasn't able to work for a couple of weeks because I just couldn't walk. So anyway, yeah, and God's good. I love seeing God at work, and it's hard for me to connect with not faith community as the focus.
Yeah,
it is out and about. My routine of interacting with people, and this is going to sound bad, but they will never be a part of faith community.
Sure.
But the Lord's using me in their life.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that's good.
That is great. It's good stuff. Somebody else? What's something you're celebrating? I would love to share that we have signed documents, but we haven't yet. We're supposed to sign our documents next week. We still are looking at a close of escrow April 4th for the property. So we're really, really near the finish line. The seller is packing up quite quickly, trying to get all that stuff done. And we're just trying to get all the business stuff situated so we're ready for the transition on day one. So it's been great meeting with the team. We've got 5 employees that are a part of the business. And so building up some time and experience with them, but it's been really great and exhausting. It's been a lot of work.
Well, since you're talking about house stuff
Tell us.
and and all this moving, we sold our house a couple of weeks ago really easy. Of course, selling is extremely easy right now. Buying is a whole nother story. I mean, we have put in numerous bids in the Fresno area, even won a few in terms of dollar amounts, but haven't got a house yet. Kathy went to see 2 yesterday, going to see 3 today, and she's always videoing me while she's walking through. And of course, you can see a lot of stuff online as well. But
yeah,
that's so we celebrate that we sold our house. We're getting closer, but man, it's getting almost down to the wire here pretty soon.
Yeah, it's frustrating the way that works out. How about maybe 1 or 2 more stories of celebration while we're waiting for anybody else to join us?
Just having to deal with, not that I want to talk about government or anything, but having to deal with government bureaucracy is like wild. I forgot how tough, Lloyd, you would know this, how tough it is to contact anybody in Canada through the government. I got on the phone in the morning on Service Canada, they call it. And they open at 8:30, so I got on at 8:30. There's a 2.5-hour wait.
Ooh.
I waited 2.5 hours, and then they said another hour, please. Or we can call you back next Thursday. I said, I'll just wait. So I got on. I only had one question, Lloyd. It was about Canada Pension Plan. So I had one question. The guy answered it. Fill out this, and then send it off. I said, great. A question was on it. I had to phone them back at 1 o'clock for another question. I didn't get through to them until 4:10.
Yeah.
And then the answer was really easy. It was just ridiculous. I had no idea they what they did was they set my Lloyd. I don't know if you keep your social insurance from Canada active. Keep it active, man, because otherwise they place it dormant. And if you don't keep it active or continually go into it, it's placed dormant, so hackers can't get at it and everything like that. So that took about 2.5 months just to activate that.
Wowzers.
So I finally got it done, and now I'm just waiting to see if they're able to send it on whatever I have coming to me down here. That's just a little something.
Yeah. Always those steps that are super frustrating. I hear you. I've got quite a few of those where I need to do one thing, but there's, all these little things to get to it, and some of them are holding others up. I want to welcome Brandon and Jeanette and Jordan to the call. Good to have you guys here. We're just doing a little catch up as we get to this kind of point in the time frame. So what we'll do is we'll transition here. If anybody else jumps on from this point on, I'll just wave and greet. I'll probably send them a chat message, but let me just lay the playing field so that I can then hand off the reins to Lloyd. So this is the first of our Decentralized Church conversations. We don't exactly know. Lloyd and I haven't confirmed a specific amount. I can't remember how many. Some of that might play by Lloyd's schedule. Some of it might play out by just the way the nature of our conversation unfolds. But we're going to just lean into Lloyd guiding us through a conversation that started at our annual conference in Madera. Lloyd did a great job of presenting incredibly complex things, but that are incredibly relevant to our current context and our day and age. So looking forward to all of that. Again, I think, let's jump in today, and I'll give the reins to Lloyd. Lloyd, he can kind of maybe say how he expects today to go. But as you guys know from the past, store up your questions. If there's anything that's happening along the way, write it down so you don't forget it, and you can bring that back in at some point. Again, I know our intention is to have this be, sure, there's going to be some levels of presentation, but there's probably going to be a lot more of the Q&A side of things or response side of it, so we can get into our own application as much as possible. So with that said, let me pray for us, and then I'll hand it over to Lloyd. So Father, we come before you in the strong name of Jesus Christ. And we thank you, Jesus, for the unity that you have given to us as brothers and sisters. Thank you for the sacrifice that you have made and the adoption that we have into the kingdom. God, I pray that your blessings would be upon this conversation. as Lloyd takes the helm and leads this out, as questions come, as all that unfolds. We want more than just the dialogue. We really do want to see the ways that you supernaturally intervene into things like this and then work out great kingdom outcomes through this. And so come, we surrender afresh to you, and we look to you to see your kingdom come and your will be done here in the places that were planted, just like it is in heaven. So come, Lord, come. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. Dr. Lloyd Cyril Moritz, could you please take us away from here?
Hey, thank you, Michael. It is good to be here. It's hard to believe it was exactly a month ago today that we were together in Madeira. So that was a lot of fun. I appreciate the opportunity to be part of that, and even to do this. This is just this is fun. I mean, I get to do a lot of things that I enjoy in ministry. But when you're working on areas in your passion and where you're, this doesn't even seem like, it's not like work or anything. It's a joy. So this is a lot of fun. So yeah, thank you for the opportunity to do this. And just as a quick thing, I don't know, Michael, if you emailed everyone on this, but and we can talk more about this at the end. And as far as what's next, this is a weekly thing, but next week we won't be meeting. I will be in an airplane at this time, and I reached out to Michael and said, well, we could either change times or whatever. And he said, yeah, let's just skip next week and then we'll come back in 2 weeks. So I apologize. I know continuity is important, and trying to keep the ball rolling can be essential, but after next week, I should be on a pretty steady schedule. So yeah, though, this is great to be able to meet together in this way. And I'm going to outline a little bit in terms of where I see us going, and we'll deal specifically with some things I want us to do today. But I just want to give you a little bit of my heart on this, and that is that, a month ago when we were together and I gave my presentation in 4 sessions and try to condense down probably what could have been a week long exercise, try to, condense it down. This gives us an opportunity to have some, I think, a deeper dive into the content, but also give you an opportunity to really look at what this could mean for you. And so I guess one of the things, as I've been planning for this and thinking through this going forward, is I want to make this more of a workshop than you listening to me babble on for an hour at a time. I'm not sure that would be that helpful. I think really this will be most meaningful when you can begin to start thinking how this could be applied in your situation, and then try to find ways to make it work, and then we can kind of help each other troubleshoot. In fact, I would hope that it's an opportunity for us to begin to look at implementation, talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, all of that stuff. Because one of the things I want you to hear and really hear my heart on this is that, and I think I communicated this a month ago, but I want to make sure that this is not misunderstood. And that is that I'm not somebody that says we have to all buy into the same model, or that there's one size fits all, and that this is the miracle pill. And if you take this, that I'm a Matrix fan, especially the original stuff. I'm still deciding what to do with this last movie that just came out a few months ago, but that's a whole nother discussion. We could have a group discussing movies or something, but that's different. But the blue pill, the red pill, and just take this pill and all the secrets of the Matrix will be unveiled to you, and your church will thrive, and you'll have no problems going forward, and you'll be blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff. Now, that's not where we're at. What we're really what this is really about is to say, let's explore what God is doing elsewhere, learn from lessons that are happening in God's church, wherever it might be, and see where there might be some applicability to what is going on in our own situations. And some of this might be more relevant to some of you than others. Some of this some of you might just really latch onto this and say, yeah, this is exactly what we need. This timing for this is perfect. Others of you might go, yeah, there's one or two things that'll maybe apply, but I'm not willing to jump into the deep end yet. And all of that is fine. If at minimum, this encourages you to kind of re-examine what you're doing and why you're doing it. If just that alone could be worth the time of this exercise. But I'm also hoping that in the process, this will be a chance for you to do some fresh new thinking and maybe unlock some possibilities, some action steps that might take the ministry and your congregation to a new level. So that's kind of where I'm at with this, and really want to be helpful and be available to assist in any way. So what I would like to do, and I know most of you that are on this call, some of you I've met, some of you, briefly, and I'm not sure if everyone on this call even knows each other. And I know there were others that were wanting to be part of this, and I get it. Schedules are tough, and when you do calls like this, sometimes people forget and all of that. But I would love to just hear, and we will take some time. And this morning, I want to hear a little bit more from you. So today, I don't have a lot of content. This is not going to be a content-rich day. This is more me listening and us getting acquainted. When we get together in 2 weeks, we'll start with a little more formal processing. But I want to listen today, and I want to kind of find out a little bit of what's going on in your world, and that's kind of where we're gonna start out. So with that in mind, Michael, did you give me screen sharing ability?
I believe you should already have it. So go ahead.
Because I've got a PowerPoint here. I'm going to share. And I don't have a lot of PowerPoint stuff because this is not content rich, but at least to get some stuff on the screen. So let me see if I can get this working here on my end. And yeah, this should work. Okay, how's that? Are you guys seeing my screen there? Good. Looks like you are. Good. Okay. So what we're going to do is I want to give you a couple of steps here. So here's what I see us doing. This will be kind of our format week to week. Very simple. 3 things. And one is just we're going to do some content. I'm going to give you some ideas, some of the stuff maybe that we've already explored last month when we were together, maybe some new stuff, but some really focused content. We're going to have some discussion. And then we're going to, I know the last word, I was looking for a better word, but then I decided to stick with that word. And that is the word assignment. Because I really, if this is going to be a workshop, I want you to be able to take this and start working with it. Now, when I say assignment, obviously it's not graded, and we're not, if you don't do the assignment, we won't slap your hand the next time we get together. But I really want to encourage you, and the assignment is going to be such that you can apply it however you want. So it's not, a formulaic assignment, but it will be something that I will want you to start working on, and then come back the next time and tell us, based on what you decided to do, how the doing went. And so those are kind of the 3 steps that we'll go through as we meet together in the future. So what we're going to do today, I've got 3 questions, and then we're going to spend our time together just processing these 3 questions, just to get the ball rolling. I'm going to take notes, and love to hear from you on this. This will be helpful for me and helpful for each other as we embark on this journey together. So my first question is, based on what you know already regarding decentralized ministry, what do you see as the biggest decentralization opportunity for your church? And based on what you understand at this point, maybe what you've heard me say when we were together, or maybe there's some other thoughts that you've had from elsewhere. You're obviously on this call because something has been triggered. Right now, what is it that is piquing your interest? What is it that has your attention when it comes to decentralization? So let's just open the floor. I'm not going to force people to speak. We're not going to go around in a circle. But I'd love to hear some of your comments. I'm going to take some notes. If you see me typing, that's what I'm doing. And I'd love to just kind of hear right now the question, what is the biggest decentralization opportunity that you see? And I'm going to actually get out of this sharing mode for a second here so we can see each other's faces better.
Well, let me start, Lloyd. Really appreciated what you shared. Was it actually a month ago? That's just crazy. But I also completed a DMin program. It's been 10 years ago, 11 years ago, from Fuller Seminary in missional church leadership. And what I realized is, further education doesn't teach you anything, except it just calls attention to what you don't know, right? And so I've had whole new areas of ignorance opened up to me. But I want to tell you, Lloyd, that I think you filled some gaps for me from the work I did 10 years ago in my doctoral program, because you made this a little more practical. What does this look like in the context of a local church, especially a local church that is traditional, a traditional local congregation, and how it can start transitioning. So I was especially intrigued, and I'm interested in talking more about the opportunities that small congregations have by virtue of what they already are to do more with decentralized ministry. This really interests me, because that's where I am, and that's who we are, right? We're not a mega church, and we're not going to become that. Partly because I don't want to become that, but partly because I don't think it's possible. But we have some things already in place as a small congregation of less than 100 people that we could really learn to capitalize on and use for the kingdom. And so I'm really intrigued by that. You focused on it a little bit when you were talking about the four areas of social
the space, yeah.
social spaces,
Mm-hmm.
and how small churches are actually already positioned to do some things with that second level of space. So stop trying to be a big church. That's why I was really fascinated with what you presented. Stop trying to mimic what the big churches are doing, because you can't compete with that. I can't duplicate that. I can't do that. But there's things that small churches have to offer that they're already actually very well positioned to do. And And so I just want, that's why I'm here. I'm here because I just need, Lloyd, I thought you presented better than my mentors at Fuller did about the practicality of how this looks in the context of a local church. If I could just say one more thing, I thought about this a month ago when you were here. It's not like we're all planting a church. We're not starting a missional community. We're trying to transition an existing church into thinking about this decentralized form of ministry. And that's a different issue. And I thought you presented it very well, but I want to build on that. I want to unpack that a little more.
Yeah. Thank you, Greg. No, those are good comments. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Greg, too. Man, you articulated so many things that were on my mind. And I'm a little jealous that I didn't get to attend all of the sessions. And so I'm limited in my knowledge of the things that Lloyd was presenting. We really only got to hear about half of one, and then Jeanette got sick and we had to leave. But anyway, when I think of what is the biggest decentralization opportunity with your church, I'm thinking for faith community, and that the thing that comes to my mind, and I too am in that church that is, I've been a faith community 32 years. That's a long time to be the pastor of one church. And the changes that have taken place are just unreal where we are today. And man, do I identify with the concept of not wanting to be a mega church and not able or desirous of competing with what the mega church, even a church of 200 or 300, what they offer. We're not there. We can't do that. But when I'm looking at this, I want to find how faith community can connect with the faith community around us, the churches. I'm thinking of Hanford and Tulare and Porterville and the other churches, how we can connect and be what we say doctrinally, one church. And yet we don't function that way. We function as individual churches. And I want to find a way of not necessarily starting new things, but what Hanford has to offer, what Exeter has to offer, what Visalia Faith Community has to offer, how we actually become that one church and connect together. And then the other thing, and I spoke with you a little bit about this, Lloyd, when we were having lunch, but the idea of having faith community find its out focus. What is it that is our heart as a church? And I can't give it to the church. And so actually during Lent right now, one of our primary prayer requests is for the church to have an ear to hear what God is saying should be our out, our focus. What is it that you want us, God, to focus on? Because I'm just not good at picking that out. And then it seems kind of random. And then I'm pushing my agenda. And I know how far that's gone in the past. That just has not flown. And so we are praying for us as a church to hear God's voice about what we can do to have a touch in our local community some way. But those two things are things that I see as the decentralized church and things. One is connecting with the smaller congregations that we are one, and how they benefit us and how we benefit them. And then also getting a handle on what it is that God wants us to be doing, that is not just faith community meeting together for worship and prayer and very if we can be a self as a church, very self-focused. And so anyway, those are the things that I'm looking at. And I want to hear how we can better connect and how we can have that focus about what that is.
Yeah. Good. That's good.
Yeah. Lloyd, when I was listening to you, like Greg says, I can't believe it was a month ago. My sense is that for our church typically, decentralization, I think, would have has a greater reproductive value or potential than does a church camp, like a church campus or just a singular church, especially here in Hanford. In fact, I think one of the reasons that God may have shielded me from knowing anything about decentralization in just a few years ago was to keep me from limiting reproductive potential of some of our spiritual people. And so I don't think it isn't impossible for a campus to be unique or to multiply, but it does seem to me that in most cases campuses don't develop into a reproductive movement. And I think that's one of the problems I see it. And the other thing is that difference I think between what we're talking about and decentralized. If you look it up, and I've been looking it up and speaking about Canada a little bit earlier. The whole idea of decentralization also reflecting, decentralized government. When it comes into that, we come from a Canada with a country where in the 70s and everything, it's the guy that was in charge for the father of the guy that is there now. He specifically said it had to be a centralized government only. It wouldn't work any other way. You remember that, Lloyd? You don't, yeah. So, but they've been trying to work away from that over the years, and it's a very hard thing to do once it's set in place. And I think that's one of the things. Like Dayton's right. I mean, these things would work. One of the things that you have to do is talk to the people through in your congregation in your church. Is this something they would even be interested in? Because some people are just like, well, this is where we belong. They're still in that mindset. This is where we are. And it's just that, yeah, but you actually try to show them the fact. This is what we can do. Nah, it's not for us. Sorry. And it's a difficulty. And I've faced that several times over the last several years about getting together with the other churches. Well, this is where we meet, though. This is where we are. And they have no interest. And it's very hard. It's a very difficult thing to get over that hump. And I really think more so, though, it's something that people are. I don't think it's not even a lack of I don't think it's a lack of wanting to do it. I don't think they understand what it can do, what it can be. And I think that's what it is. And that's where it comes in now, where it's time for us to let them know this is what can happen. This is what it can be like. Like you said, Lloyd, a month ago, it's not something that's going to happen overnight. And probably shouldn't. Probably something that needs to be discussed and talked to. And like you said, and Dayton was saying, we got to really talk on this. It can't all be on the pastor to say this is the direction we got to go. Let's talk about this. And so I think, Lloyd, you brought up some great points, like you said a month ago, and I'm so interested. I'm reading a book now by a guy named Alan Hirsch. I don't know if you read it, called The Forgotten Ways.
Yeah.
I really
Classic.
I recommend it, man. It is so good. So it's a great book. So anyway, so that's what I was thinking. Anyway.
Thank you, Malcolm.
If I can speak into this question a little bit too, I'd appreciate that. I know that we're going to be pressed on time, but when I think about the biggest decentralization opportunity is what we're seeing is that people who are who've been familiarized now with this through the seminar at the regional conference, and we had quite a few members of our core leadership team there. They're wanting further discussion, and we're having those further discussions and huddles. But also what I'm sensing from them is a willingness to lean into who we are, not who we were. And that's the biggest I see right now with Church of God of Exeter, is because ever since I've been here for the past almost 3 years, it's always been about who we used to be. We need to get back to there. We need to go back to there. And for the first time, I'm hearing in these core leaders, this is who we are, and it's exciting. Mm-hmm. This is what God has put us here for, and it's exciting. And it's just leaning into those understandings of this is who we are. And that's kind of where we're beginning with, is understanding who we are and being joyful about that. Got some great missional things that are about ready to happen here tonight and tomorrow, but it all is kind of out of that focus of this is who we are. And I know someone mentioned competition. We're not competing or trying to be like someone we're not. We're just going to be who we are, who God's made us for in this time and space. And I know that we've already seen some fruit from that. as our core leadership team, most of them were in attendance at the seminar, and we got some others that we want to bring along on this journey. So we can't wait till those videos are ready, Pastor Michael.
I'll go next. I don't see Jordan's video on. So Jordan, if I'm cutting in front of you, I'll let you go right afterwards. So yes, videos will be coming. I do have session number 1, which was my session, now ready to go. So I'll queue that up to be able to be delivered next week. And then I'm supposed to be getting those others real soon. Again, I think that is going to be a great resource, especially the way that Brandon's talking about utilizing for anybody that didn't watch it or anybody that just wants a refresh. Second, man, I love hearing what I've already heard from everybody, the way that this is being potentially thought about and applied back into your own context. That warms my heart dramatically. And then third, for me personally, with us being in Bandon now, a lot of what we're doing is the missiological work of trying to figure out what's the spiritual landscape here, which has been really fun. So we've got, it's super exciting because everybody is a potential person of peace. So we're just keeping copious notes and watching and learning. We've already visited one church. We're going to keep doing that. So we're going to do that because we have a need for our girls to be in a community, especially to develop new friends. So we're looking for church really for that key thing. But I think what God is doing is we will probably plant a missional community. And I'm just curious about what hub that may be. I don't know if that will have ground laid for Church of God specifically. The Church of God that is here, I'm really curious to see the way the relationship will unfold in Bandon, because we do have a Church of God here, and there are a couple of other churches of God in this specific coastal area. So I'm excited because we want to do missional community again. We miss it. When we were in Exeter, that was probably our very favorite thing, the home group that we had and the ways that God was using that. We want to be able to see that kind of thing established again. So we're looking forward and can't wait to see what will happen again. Will that be within Church of God specifically, the connections outside of, the missional community we build, or will it have some impact on other churches of God here as well?
Great. I'm not sure. Jordan, are you, did you want to comment, or we can move on to the next question? Which we will do. Let me go back to my screen sharing here. Okay, second question I'm going to have us probe this morning is, so this might get a little more, here we go. This might get a little more personal, and maybe you might be more reluctant to share this, but what is the greatest challenge you face to decentralization? I mean, we see opportunities, but are there threats, challenges that have you either hesitant, reluctant, scared, whatever that might be? And it could be internal or external. So internal could be, hey, I don't feel adequate. I feel ill-prepared. I'm not sure if I can handle or can face any opposition that might come my way, whatever it might be. So those would be internal challenges. External might be, what are the things that you think, what are those obstacles that you would have to overcome in the congregation, perhaps, there could be other issues, resource issues, a number of things that could come into play that you might think might be difficult. So this one, I don't know if you're all prepared to share on this, but I'd love to hear anyone that might have or might be willing to share an example of where you are a little, feeling a little challenged by all of this. So let's talk about that for a few moments.
I would go back to what I was talking about. Greatest challenge is making sure we communicate it properly. Don't put the cart before the horse. I have a tendency to do that so much. It's like, oh, this is great, we're going to do this. And before I know it, it's like, oh, wow, we didn't let anybody in on this to know how to be part of it. And now everybody's just, the the pot's boiling over, and that's why getting those videos are going to be key, getting that out. I know the great thing is, I feel a general census from those who went to the conference and those that we've talked to about it is, gosh, yes, this makes sense. And I really feel it spoke to the heart of the people. But once again, communicating and getting that out there, doing that effectively, that will be the greatest challenge. And because it is so foreign to our typical understanding of church. It's so foreign. Like, what is the goal of every church in America? It's to become the next church of 100. And the church of 100 is to become the next church of 300. I've been to the church growth seminars and all that. It's just, that is the model. And it's deconstructing that model. And that's been instilled in us for so many years. But not just deconstructing it to leave people with nothing, but showing them what the church could truly be. And to me, that's going to be one of the greatest challenges, because you've got to break through the delusion. You got to break through all of just the ideologies that we have of what the church should be in America. And we have to then speak into prophetically the reality of what God made his church to be.
That's great, Brandon, because I was thinking about, that's exactly what I was saying when I first time around. It's exactly it. They got this, people will speak and say they understand what the church is supposed to be, but they don't really. You understand what I mean? It's like they say the church, well, this building, this is our church. Well, no, but see, that's, and you're sitting here, sometimes you want to bash yourself over the head. No, this is just a tool that we use. It's just a base or whatever. This is not the church. You are the church. And this is, and the whole idea, like Lloyd's talking about, the church can meet anywhere it wants. It can be anywhere it wants. It doesn't matter where we are. But the whole idea is that, and I understand this, it's to communicate with your congregation, with people, even in your community. This is who we can be. And I agree with what you said also, Brandon, but Michael, the videos are going to be so helpful, and Lloyd, helpful with the people here in this church, so they can see an understanding, not just through me, but they can see it for themselves, what this actually can be. And until they understand that, doing anything other than that, it just, I know the folks here, and I just, well, no, this is where, like I said, this is where we meet. We don't go to Porterville. We don't go to Fresno. We go here. This is where this is our church. And it's a small amount of people. And you think it would, the good thing about that, and this is the good thing about being a smaller church, it's more open now. They're just saying, okay, well, tell us about it. Tell us about it. When you got a larger group of people, and you Brandon, you and Greg may have, that'll be your biggest hurdle, is that they'll see the groups will start breaking off into well, that's not what we're going to do. And the other one's saying, yeah, that's what we want to do. Now you have to work on the communication and the understanding of that. And I understand how that works. And I just think that I've been through it. I've been talking to people already the last month about what Lloyd's talked about. And I got people really thinking, well, we want to hear more about this. It sounds great. And so I think, and that's a good step especially for this small church.
Yeah, so Brandon, I have to jump in with you on some of the things that you were saying. And I had written it in much less articulate way, but I said that one of the biggest challenges is for faith community to reshape and grasp what the church really is, rather than what we were before, but to understand. And I've been taking the church through the book of Acts and then tying in the New Testament letters where they fit chronologically. And I'm just calling it regrouping and transition, and how the church, what they thought the church was in Jerusalem in those very first days. And then as the persecution happened, and how they had to reshape their thinking. And even in the New Testament church, they had to think differently about what they were called to do than what they thought they were called to do at the beginning. And that transition was necessary then, and it's necessary today. And so we're looking at that. And so I think for faith community, one of the biggest challenges is to understand that the church is not that building, and it's not what we were 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago. We're not that. We are something else. And Brandon, we're something new now. We not what we were, but what we are. And God has a work for us today. If he didn't, I think we'd be gone. There's no reason for us to exist. And so one of my biggest challenges, and this is an external challenge, is to be able to help faith community grasp what God is about with regard to this community. By this community, I mean faith community, this church body. And then the internal struggle, and I'll speak to that, is I ask myself, do I have the energy for this? Do I have the mental strength to address these things? And honestly, and I'm not telling anybody, you guys aren't hearing this, but a lot of the biggest resistance is with my own family, and those that have been in leadership and helping, and that has just been tough. And to actually get them to follow my lead as pastor. I'm not just dad, I'm not just grandpa, I'm pastor, and have them actually follow that. So do I have the emotional stability? And I'm going to be 71. Do I have the energy, the want to? And that's where part of where I struggle. I know how much work this is going to be. Well, I don't know. I know this is going to be a lot of work. And do I want to do it? And do I want to do it? Because right now, we're meeting every Sunday, we're worshiping, we're praising God, we're giving testimony, we're praying for, right now we're praying for the persecuted church, and we're learning about that, and it's wonderful. But it's not what, there is a whole aspect of what the church is to be that we are not. And so my external struggle is having the church, knowing how to have the church buy into what the church is. And then internally, am I up for this? Am I up for this? So that's that.
I kind of started to think like it's not as much, I may be wrong, but it's not like the burden of the lead pastor to have the church be decentralized at all. Like, or I kind of think of it like small groups that could be in the church or in house churches too. That it kind of operates the same way no matter where you meet. But basically, the church and the head pastor can like plant seeds of, hey, we want to get some who's interested in being a facilitator, basically, or a small group leader, and maybe having like a small group meeting. But then beyond that, it's sort of more, you might oversee some things, but it's not going to be like your job to group everyone together and to I wouldn't like, I would have people come up and say, oh, you want to start a group? Awesome. You want to start a homeless outreach? Awesome. Go ahead and do that, and that's how some churches are operating that way, but that might be a little off the mark of the whole decentralized thing.
Yeah. No.
Can I say one thing real quick? Sorry. Lloyd, didn't you mention about a month ago that the whole idea, it wasn't to load it all onto the pastor? That was supposed to be sort of a more of the congregation as a group, as a whole, not just the pastor. Got to take all this load on himself. He's like, Dayton's right. It's going to be far too much for you, Dayton.
Yeah, no, I think what you're saying, what Jordan is saying is correct. That reflects a centralized model where everything, rotates around the pastor. The pastor's study, the pastor's the office of pastor within the church. Everything has got to happen there, and that's that. We hit ceilings when we do that. When we decentralize, and it should be reflected in our theology, and I mean, theoretically it is. We're the priesthood of all believers, and there's a more organic approach to the church. Absolutely. Jordan, just a quick question. Remind me where you're located again.
I'm with Pastor Greg at
yes,
Church of God.
Got it.
Yeah, I'm the youth pastor.
Yeah.
So basically, like, my youth group is a small group, and it kind of feels like decentralized is almost like another term for small group. Like, and it doesn't necessarily matter like if it's like in that centralized location of the church or outside it, you know, because the intimacy and the growth is what comes out of these small groups. You're able to actually talk, you know, and stuff, rather than just hear a pastor each week. And you can connect with people that way and share more intimate things, be a little more vulnerable and feel comfortable doing so. And so I think more healing comes out of decentralized types of churches or small groups.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Let me dive in here and just give my take on this. I agree with everything you guys have been saying. The concept of decentralized ministry or decentralized church theoretically takes the burden off the lead pastor to be the center of everything that happens, right? That's the way we hope it would happen. But I would propose that I think the reason it does happen that way is because that's exactly the way we function. I think, I mean, I've been in ministry for 43 years, and this is the way I was trained to function. And that's the reason my churches have always functioned this way. And so I do think it comes back around to the way the lead pastor is actually training his people to think in the church. I don't think I can't get out from under that. I don't know if I have enough time left to change any of this, right? But I recognize my role in training the churches I've pastored, and it's been 5. I've pastored 5 churches. I think I've trained them to be dependent on me. And I see that error now, but I'm not sure how to get out from under it, Lloyd. I don't even, you know, my concept of seminary education also has to change, right? Because I really believe in training for ministry. I think the call to ministry includes the call to prepare for ministry. I've always believed that, and I still do. But seminaries, by nature, by design, are always running from behind to catch up with where the church is. I mean, that's what they have to do. So if the church is calling for pastors who can do, you know, performative kinds of ministry, meaning performative, what we do when we gather, what we do on Sunday morning when we're all together, it's a performance, it's a show, it's our Sunday morning performance. Well, if that's what churches want, then that's what seminaries are going to train their pastors to do. So I think the change is not going to come from our seminaries. The change has to come from our churches itself. And when churches start asking for a new skill set, you know, we need pastors that are trained to do something very different. Well, then our colleges and our seminaries can say, well, we got to shift gears. And we're starting to see that happen, I think, I hope, but I'm so far removed from it now that I'm kind of out of touch. But all I'm saying in this for now is I recognize and I own my responsibility. I started to use the word guilt, but I have enough guilt in my life. I don't need more guilt. But I'm responsible for the way the churches I have pastored function. I think pastors just need to recognize that and say, oh my goodness, we're so far off base, and how do we get back to what this could be and perhaps will be someday. So anyway, that's my take on it.
Something that Pastor Dayton talked about was an internal struggle. Do we have time for me to talk about that?
Yeah. Go ahead. We
I
got
want to build
a
off
few
of
minutes.
what Greg said. Something that I kind of took away from the conference is, the time of vocational full-time ministry may be coming to an end, and understanding that, and making peace with that, hey, I gotta start looking for other ways to provide for my family and not be so dependent upon the church to provide for my family. And that was a big takeaway I had from the conference, because a lot of this movement, you talked about that church in Florida, and how many hubs that they're the hub, but how many missional communities are a part of that one hub, and they have 2 staff members. And I apologize about the kids, but that was one of the things I realized, that that's my internal struggle. I'm like, wow, how dependent I've become on vocational ministry. And that's not a good thing, because that wasn't the calling. The calling wasn't to a career, it was to a missional purpose in Christ's kingdom.
Yeah, that's good. And by the way, just to clarify, and Michael, sorry to interrupt, but just clarify a point that I made regarding the temp underground with staff. They had at that point 2 full-time staff. They had some other part-time staff, but regardless, for a church of that size, that's still mind-blowing. So yeah. But anyways, good point. Michael, go ahead.
Again, so good to hear all of this stuff, guys, because again, I do feel like people are coming to terms with some of the really sticky things that oftentimes get in the way. So that's beautiful, and I get it, painful to hear. Second thing too is that the next webinar that's coming up, I don't have the advertisements out for it, but I've been talking with Bruce Newton, because Bruce has been developing a model of training for ministry that is different than the traditional seminary ed. And so he's going to be presenting about that model. He's really already walked a couple of people through, like Michael Masacchio is the prototype that has gone through it. And then the newest person that we're just bringing on board, his name is, I can't pull it to memory, Malcolm or Greg. We just interviewed him for Leadership Focus, but he's there.
Andrew Adams.
I kept thinking Adam, but Adams was his last name. He's getting ready to go through, and he'll be like a new level of prototype, which will be wonderful. So we're going to get to hear that model of training ministry, and there'll be plenty of tweaks that need to be made, but I think it is a great first next step. Personally, for me, internal, I think where I am right now, I always fight the urge to go fast. I like fast. I'm addicted to fast. I can see it already, because I envision this stuff. And so I'm really having to intentionally pace myself and realize that the materialization of the things that I have in my heart are going to be years, not months. So that's the internal. The external, there's 2 external that I can come up with. One is just directly, I am concerned that I am going to put myself in opposition to the local Church of God congregation. I know what this is like from the past. And oftentimes new models of ministry, new ways of doing things, you get yourself pitted. And in particular, I think, and I haven't been here, I think this church in particular aligns itself strongly with its politics. And I know that I'm just coming from a different spot than they are. And then second, I think it does affect the church as well. But I think I being in Oregon now, and kind of even outside of my hometown, I know the culture around craft beer. It's a huge piece of the culture here. And for me to choose a stance to not partake in craft beer and the industry favorably, I think will be a really huge negative for me, because I don't want to reach church people. I want to reach the people who are going to the local brewery. And so I'm realizing that I'm going to have to take a stance on alcohol intentionally for the kingdom that is different than the traditional one. And I don't want to I don't want to make that decision. One, I don't want to trumpet it and say this is the main thing that it's about, but I also don't want to, I want to quit being silent about that decision. And so I think those two things I can find where I may be coming up against kind of traditional church systems in some ways.
Read Hugh Halter.
Yes.
Absolutely. His stuff is so
Yes.
good. Agreed.
Well, Hugh Halter actually faced that exact same issue, right? Because he was part of a holiness kind of group. I forget which group now. Anyway, and he made a conscious decision to separate from his tribe because he just couldn't go along with their teetotaler kind of mentality. And he's written some wonderful stuff about it. And I trust him. I trust what he's writing. Yeah.
And then just a last note, I didn't say this on the front end, guys, but I do have a 12 o'clock call that's on my account. And so this one will need to be shut down right at the top. So I meant to say that at the top.
No, that's fine. Let's wrap up. No, that's good. My third question, I would just leave it because I think you've probably answered it anyways. Thank you. Great sharing. One of the things, and Michael, maybe you and I can talk about this at a later point. Maybe there's a way that we can have some other asynchronous conversation. Maybe there's some forum or something where some of this stuff could be bantered about offline, or not offline, but in different settings, a discussion group or something. So that would be great. Yeah, no, that's good. You guys have given me some great food for thought. In fact, if I had more time, there was a few comments I was going to make on some of that, but we obviously don't have time. So let me share my screen. I want to give you one last thing here, and then Michael's got to go. Give you my email address. If you want to get a hold of me, connect with me. If you have any questions in the meantime, let me know. Love to chat, but hopefully we'll find some other ways to keep this conversation alive as well. Great stuff. This gives me a lot to go with. And when we get together in 2 weeks, we can process that further. So, hey, thank you so much for your time. This is really good. I'm looking forward to it. Some of the stuff you guys have shared, very, very honest, very thought-provoking, and look forward to see where God's going to lead us in this discussion. So
love it.
Love it, you guys. Follow-up email. I'll have a recording of this in there. I'll also, if there's a couple of resources that I heard, I might put a link in there. Feel free, if you want to, before we have a new system for asynchronous communication, respond back with any other resourcing that may have been in your mind that you want to share with the group too. Okay.
Good.
All right, Brandon.
Thank you, guys.